All right, we're back, everybody. Jim Ward and Tiffany Cloud-Mann, our guests tonight from the Mid-South chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, as we talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and caregiving and so on and so forth. It's a huge topic to cover, but we're trying to get some good information and raise some awareness because we know so many of you out there have been touched by this disease and this diagnosis, I should say. I want to talk a little bit before we go into the story that Carrie did, just about the risk and also some of the things that we've learned now through research of what we can do to help kind of ward off these diagnoses. Age and genetics, obviously, we can't do anything about that. You know, we're all going to get older, and we're all made up of a certain...
We have the genes we have.
We have the genes that we have. But what have we learned about specifically the genetic component?
Yeah, there are risk genes that they've identified in people that have had the disease, that if you have this version of this type of gene, then you are at more risk for developing Alzheimer's. One particular gene, viewers could Google APOE, APOE-E, that specific gene. They do look at that. There's 3 different versions of that gene, and certain versions put you at more risk for developing Alzheimer's. But researchers really think that Alzheimer's is both that genetic component, but also environmental. And the environmental piece is all of the things we know about healthy living. You know, how do you eat? Do you exercise? Do you maintain your weight, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, diabetes? Do you get enough sleep? Do you smoke? Do you stay social? Do you stay mentally active? Do you manage your stress? So I think I got 8 of our 10 ways to love your brain in there. But we know that researchers say if you do have that family risk, that genetic risk, which I do and Jim does as well, if you've had someone in your family with it, you also have that environmental piece. So you can look at those things that maybe they did that weren't so healthy.
Control what you can control. Right?
Exactly. Invest in your brain, and then possibly you can offset the onset of the disease if you control those things. And so, like I said earlier, a healthy heart is a healthy brain. Just recognizing that these 2 things are connected.
It's funny you mention that, because I've had my moments where I'll go periods without exercising as much as I could, and then when you get back into it, at least when I go out and maybe especially cardio exercise, I've noticed if I go out for a run or maybe ride my bike for quite a distance, I'll notice that the later in the day I feel sharper. I just feel like my mind is sharper, like I'm really attuned, and my undiagnosed ADD is not quite as severe. So I really do think there's a connection there. There's a connection with blood flow, with, I don't know if it's the endorphins or whatever that's released throughout your body, but something impacts the brain.
Right, and it's like Tiffany said, with those, you know, the ways to love your brain. I mean, there's it's not causative. At the same time, there are correlations. So all of the things that we know that our doctors have always been telling us, don't be overweight, keep your cholesterol down, don't have diabetes, particularly if it's caused by being overweight, keeping the blood flow going, keep your blood pressure under control, keep your heart healthy. All of those things have a negative or positive effect on the blood flow to the brain, the way things work.
Yeah, we actually have a presentation we deliver in the community called Healthy Habits for a Healthier You, and it looks at 4 areas. It looks at exercise, eating healthy, staying social, and keeping your mind active. And it says...
When you say presenting this in the community...
We educate the community, so we will go out and maybe plan a presentation at a local library, or maybe a church will call us and say, hey, can you come educate our active senior adult group? And so we offer these branded presentations that, if they can be, they're evidence-based. And so this particular one about healthy brain looks at those 4 areas: eating healthy, exercising, staying social, and keeping your mind active. And of course, all 4 of those are great, but researchers say if you can just do one, it's exercise. Exercise would be the most important. So with what you're talking about, that may make sense.
Right. What about drug therapies and treatments and what the pharmaceutical industry is doing and the research and development they're doing? I hear commercials for some drugs that are out there that can help, but they're clear to say this isn't a cure. You know, where are we with that?
Well, all of the drugs that are available that have been approved for use with patients with either moderate or severe Alzheimer's, they really work on the cognitive function, which is the thing that people are really most concerned about. But they can help for those that they do help, and they don't help everyone that takes them. Keeping the sharpness there longer, keeping the memories going. They almost, the word I use is sort of help to overclock the brain and kind of push back those symptoms that are there. But they do nothing to change the underlying progress of the disease. So the brain is still going through a degenerative disease phase, and there are a lot of drugs and there's a lot of basic research going on. There are a lot of drugs in various stages of testing, and they look at a couple of different areas. There are the prevention areas that one of the we have several holy grails, but if there is a way that we can develop treatments that help with those plaque buildups, I mean the fancy word for it is the beta amyloid proteins break off, or the tau proteins in the brain. If we can catch that early, as Tiffany said, and develop a treatment that helps alleviate that or lower those, then we can prevent the onset of the disease. And then the other side of it is, what are drugs that can arrest or slow the progression of the disease when it is in an active phase. So those are sort of the two areas. And again,
how close are we?
We never like to say close. We have a goal. The National Institute of Health has a goal of having something that slows the progression of the disease by 2025. That is why we're really pushing for that NIH research to go forward to help do that. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if there's a cure, if there's a treatment, if there's something that slows the progression, the thing that stands in the way of finding that is the money that goes into the research. I mean, you can track any of the diseases that we've ever dealt with. Some we've cured, some we've helped. It's how much resource did we put towards solving that problem. And we believe, you know, we'll get there. We'll have, I don't know which will be first, the preventative, and then as I heard a researcher say, then you're left with the idea of, you'll have a doctor telling someone who's 45, hey, we have this test now, hey, you're beginning to develop this, hey, here's a drug that we want you to take that might help prevent that. And it'll, you know, like the doctor telling you, I want you to take a statin for your cholesterol. Getting the public to actually move forward on that will be a different hurdle for that.
When I just turned 50 last year, and I joke, you know, I would say for the last 5 years at least, you definitely notice a little bit of a decline, you know, forgetting keys and just the you know, and I joke around about it a lot, you know, well, I'm 50 now. So where is that line, though, where you know this might be a little more serious? Is it the things that you're good at, like you mentioned, that, you know, I mean,
when you lose your keys, and I lose mine all the time. It's kind of a joke around our office, the stuff that I lose. But the ability to retrace your steps and go back and essentially find your stuff.
I left my debit card at a restaurant the other night. And right away when I got home, I just went boom, boom. It's at the restaurant. I went the next day, there it was. So
losing and forgetting where you put things, or putting them in very strange places. And you know, if you've, and there stories that you hear all the time of the keys were in the refrigerator. The keys, those in places that you can't really go back to. And it's the same way with the words. I mean, if you just, you know, we all forget that word that we're trying to find, to say. That's different than some people who are experiencing the disease begin to make up the words, and so
or use completely different words.
So
in
this,
place
you know,
of other
your
words.
watch is the watch is a word that's gone. So suddenly they come up with hand clock. I mean, I've heard that before, and it's just like, because watch is just gone. And those are the kinds of differences between what we all do. And
walking into a room and stand there and completely forgot why you walked into that room. You know, that kind of thing, which happens to me more often than not now. I just, it's gone, and I think, oh gosh, and I have to kind of retrace again. But obviously that is different from the more serious things that you're talking about.
It is. I mean, we recognize, I think I said this earlier, that just as our bodies age, our brains may not work as sharply as they once did. So forgetting what you came in a room for, maybe forgetting to pay a bill, and then a week later, oh, I forgot to pay this bill, or something like that. But when it starts to affect your life negatively regularly,
that's where
coming
the
into the
line
room
is
and
crossed.
saying, "Where am I?" is the difference.
Sure.
And with a lot of people, particularly as they're dealing with their parents, I mean, we put out a lot of information as we get close to the holidays every year, because that's a time when a lot of people
see their parents
again. Maybe they haven't been there for a year. They've talked to them on the phone or whatever, but they go and they begin to notice things because it didn't slowly come on for them, and so they're really noticing those changes. And these are the things that you need to look for. Or parents or children find out the parents. You talk about paying the bills. The finances are a mess now. Because
in my dad's case, it was the same kind of, looking around and it wasn't as clean as he'd normally kept it. Really starting to, Dad, I thought you were going to take care of this. I was here 6 months ago, and this pile of whatever is still here in this room, and a little bit back to some of the prevention. We were talking about those 10 things that you can do for your brain. We hear a lot about puzzles and word games, and I've got several on my phone. When I'm standing in line, I'll play a word game and get frustrated quickly, but just kind of interesting little to keep the brain active. That, and also the combination of socializing, which I want to talk a little bit about, because I've noticed so many studies have shown just how important people with long lives, the socialization and not isolating themselves seems to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, we know there's nothing for sure that prevents the disease, but definitely those things, keeping your mind active, learning new things, no matter how old you are.
Taking an art class when you're 80.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's exciting to learn something new, and then staying social. We are, I think, people that are meant to live in community and have connections with others, and so I think we need to stay social as we get older.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take another break. Is that all right, Courtney? All right, we're going to take another break, and then right after this, we will have Carrie Sharp's story to share with you, and we'll talk some more with our guests. Stay with us.